Mark looked over the basis of my program and the parameters of my hardware needs and told me that with today's technology, it could be done. So I explained to Mark that the real challenge was to take that immense program that we programmed and designed and try to fit into a small enough package that we could literally take it into the casino, interact with it while we're at the blackjack table and play blackjack without anybody in the casino knowing it, none of the bosses or security. And he agreed to build it based on my specifications, and this is what we came up with. What we have here is I designed a very unique hexadecimal 4-switch input that would allow us the speed and the accuracy necessary to input the value of every card as it comes off the deck. Every card is stored in the computer, and then whenever it's time for us to play a hand or make a decision on a bet or an insurance of any kind of decision, hit, stand, split, or double, it immediately calculates your exact advantage to do one of those decisions, and microseconds later sends out a signal to the player who has nothing on him but this receiver. And from this receiver come out 2 electrodes that are called nerve stimulators that are attached to the body and shoot you with little electrical shocks in a coded system to tell you what the decision was, whether to hit, stand, or whatever. And the idea of having it in 2 pieces like this is to have one operator just wear this stuff, have the player wear this equipment, so the player literally doesn't have to see any of the cards. He can just put all his time into the act. He can act drunk, he can not see the cards, he can talk to the pit boss, whatever it takes, and yet the whole time he could play blindfold, and yet the whole time he's playing perfect blackjack.
Highs up to 65 here, might go about 40. Right now we have 57 degrees Fahrenheit, 14 Celsius, 37% our humidity under mostly cloudy skies. Time in 10 seconds will be 10 o'clock. Stay tuned for CBS News.
Major disaster, we'll say, it's like the honeymoon is over, and that means just turn for the door and walk out.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, now if anything mild happens, or you just want to something.
There was only one little problem remaining. That was I had to figure out a way that I could walk into a casino, buy into a $100 minimum table with $10,000 in cash, jump my bets from $100 to $2,000 per hand, while at the same time have someone standing right behind me with his right hand in his pocket operating the computer while watching every single card that was played, and do all this without arousing suspicion of the pit bosses. Something that could pass close inspection, and something to put everybody in the casino at ease and off guard. Some problem. It finally came to me. We needed a wedding.
Okay, as everybody knows, last night was very successful. Okay, we went in and used Fred without any type of detection from the pit bosses or any kind of heat, and I received the signals with no problem, and so we're ready for the big undress rehearsal here.
Okay, did you play that table alone, or?
Yeah, it was just Scott and I.
Straight on action, and there was no problem?
No problem at all. And it was a kind of a real paranoid pit boss type situation, but they were too busy watching other people, not us. And so what we're going to do tonight, like I said, the undress rehearsal, we're going to have to get used to being in the casino in our prospective positions that we are going to be taking in the wedding party. And what we're going to do is we're going to position ourselves around a table in such a way that Kathy and I will be playing one particular hand as the bride and groom.
Okay, why don't we get up and try all the positions at the table then?
Here's your typical blackjack table, about 70% of a full size. And we've got, as everybody knows, first and third base, and I'm going to try to sit, at least for the time being, center seat. And if we position everybody, Scott, and answer one of your questions is, hopefully we'll be able to block out most of the table, because it should be a little intimidating. We're in a wedding party, and we're going to be covering up most of the table. It'll look like everybody's playing. At the same time, who's going to want to sit down at a private party table? But basically, with Kathy on my left.
If we're having too much fun, everybody will want to sit down.
Kath?
Hopefully just watch.
Okay, Kathy will be on my left. Well, hopefully this seat will be too far out, and Ron will be blocking anybody from getting at the seat.
Well, I can stand by this seat here and push it far enough out, and if you move these 2 seats over just a little bit.
Okay, and then Scott would have to be between us, because he's going to have to see our hand, and most importantly, I'm going to be showing our hand to Kathy. We'll be playing the hand between us all the time, and Scott will have to see that, and yet still be able to see if anybody does get in here. Okay, Lynn will be with Ron in this position, and we'll need Denise kind of in here, kind of looking over my right shoulder and my left shoulder as you move around, but mostly keeping his right hand blocked all the time, this whole arm, in case there's any movement is on at all. And we should be able to cover
Never block the table.
three-quarters of it. Well, three-quarters of a table, especially if you're moving.
Even for the two belts. You get your, I guess I won't go into the
Then when I do the quick and humps, then all right. Whoa! Not bad, not bad.
Did you see the key that was in there?
No, that was your job. I mean, because I didn't have to pay attention. That's why I could, put on my act and still count all the cards.
I think the act was good.
But the good news, what I cashed in was $575. Because I had a mark on, I didn't have to buy it back. But good news is we got another $825 that I raked off the table.
All right.
So a $400 profit in 30 minutes. It's not too bad. It's
That's great.
almost what I get paid at work. That's real close.
That's close, huh? Not bad. I felt real comfortable, though.
I thought everybody did.
To tell us it was time to go, because we had about 5 people watching us. We had 2 behind us. One had the security badge on. He had 2 pit bosses, and then he had another one that was walking back and forth. And the only reason I kept looking at the one security guard, they finally split about the 3rd time I looked at them, but then they split up and kept going.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody else?
I was called to the bathroom.
Well, I don't blame
They
them.
followed him.
I follow you. But it was a good act. Maybe it was just the act was too perfect. Maybe everybody's just, something's going on here. They don't look like they know what they're doing, but they're winning.
Later that evening, the mood changed. The computer completely died, and we were forced to return home to find the problem.
We reached a certain point where the answer...
Mark and I had to completely tear everything apart, and it took us 18 hours before we concluded the worst. The problem was in the software. We had to pull the program off the memory chips and load it back into my home computer to check the logic. We eventually found that a software error had caused the program to crash, destroying a whole section of data, rendering Fred inoperable.
Well, then really we're going to have to rewrite the whole program. Okay, well, look at this routine, the betting routine, for instance. All right, there would be another way to do this.
Another 23 hours later, we managed to reconstruct the data and nullify the bug in the program to make sure it never happened again.
As I mentioned to you that my computer, which we've named Fred now, is very capable of eking out as much as a 7% advantage over the house. Now, I mentioned earlier that was under ideal conditions, and one thing you've got to understand that there's a lot of variables that affect your overall percentage and win rate. And with all the information that we've been armed with putting together, Fred, I've also been able to put together formulas similar to this formula here that can actually determine what our advantage might be or what we might expect to win or lose or make in an hour at a particular table. So as I'm planning out the wedding that we've been discussing about doing, I have to kind of figure out what we stand to make and how much money we could possibly lose, so I could go in armed with a bankroll that would give me a 99% chance of not losing it, period. Because it gets very complicated. So I've taken this formula and programmed it into my computer here. Okay. What this gives us is it starts off with the variables that we've actually plugged in, like the $100 chips, the spread of 20. Now, the larger the spread, the more it'll affect the positive fluctuations, give you a larger advantage. We've set it up for 4 decks, and this means that it'll deal out 85% of the deck of this table. And that means it literally deal out 85% of the cards before they reshuffle. We've set up that there would be 3 extra players at the table. The C stands for a computer count, which means that it's not really counting cards, but it would be playing perfect. That would be a playing efficiency of 1 and a betting correlation of 1. And then the rule variation for Caesar particularly is just that number there. Now, it runs through this particular formula up here and brings us down to an advantage. Now, in this particular situation, the advantage will only be 3.38%, which can range anywhere from 0 to 7% again. Win rate per hour based on the $100 chips under these conditions would be approximately $902 per hour. Now, in a matter of 2 hours, using this, again, the national standard formula for deviation, 6 to 8% of the time will be between a negative 2862 and a positive 6470. So we could, 68% of the time we could still be down a little bit. 95% of the time will be between a negative 7529 and a positive $11,137. Now 99% of the time, which means your percent of ruin, we could sink down as far as $12,195, but at the same time we could be up just as easy, up 15,803.
But you have got to be prepared to sink down the 12,000.
You do have to be prepared. So under this particular table condition, I would be ready to walk in the casino. I would walk in there with approximately $13,000, knowing that 99% of the time I could never hit that low with this particular advantage. And after 2 hours, that would give us a win of $1,800. Now you've got to understand this. You can't take Fred into the casino and make $1 million. You are working off a small percentage, and in a short run, the variations could kill you if you didn't have this kind of information and you weren't prepared for a negative fluctuation that to sink down that far.
After cancelling the first wedding party attempt, a new date was set based on the availabilities of the team to commit a week for the necessary preparation and rehearsal. Denise was unable to make the new date and was replaced by Mary Beth.
During practice sessions for the wedding, we were getting the usual heat caused by Scott having to stand behind me watching all the cards. And this really concerned me because it made me realize that what were we going to do after the wedding? I mean, we would have to find some kind of new approach for using Fred, since we couldn't obviously run around town pretending to get married every night. Well, I went to bed thinking about it that evening and woke up with a perfect scam in mind, which was later dubbed the Kansas Caper, due to Ron's performance and the way he dressed. But what we would do is this. Ron and Linda and Scott and Denise, looking like tourists from Kansas, would walk up to a $25 table. Ron would buy in with a couple $100 and start playing just with using his basic strategy, but only betting one chip at a time, as if his entire life savings was riding on every single hand, while the other three would just cheer him on. Then all of a sudden, Kathy and I would come cruise up, sit down at the table pretending we didn't know these rowdy tourists, and looking like rich kids from L.A., we'd just buy in with $5,000 and start playing as though we didn't care whether we won or lost. It worked great. We'd have Scott standing behind Ron, and absolutely no one standing behind me, and yet the whole time I'm still getting the signals from the computer, which is still concealed on Scott.
Gotta start.
Mark had a dual purpose. During the wedding, he would just hang around the casinos as if he was a tourist just playing slot machines, but all along keeping an attentive eye on our party. That way, at the first sign of trouble, he was instructed to return to the condo and inform our attorney that we'd been apprehended, in which case our attorney would spring into action and immediately contact the appropriate law enforcement authorities and news media.
I split fours. I split fours against the six. You did? Yes. Why, you dummy? $400 bet, and I put 400 on each four. I got one good hand and one bad hand with the dealer busted. In fact, Scott probably remembers that. Remember when I had the pair of fours?
I remember
Well,
it.
the time I split them. You never, ever split fours. And I'm getting a signal. I'm thinking, I should double down on this. I was thinking, dash, dash. No, that says split. It must mean double down. This isn't Caesar's Palace. Dash, dash. Should I double down on this? What do you think? Dash, dash.
Yeah, that's right.
Ron's not going to believe this. Split them. Okay. And then Cooney went, huh? He got $1,000 bet, but everybody won. She busted.
That's right. He busted. When did we get in there? About 12:30?
42?
22, that's
22?
20 to 2?
That's right.
Right,
So I figure almost 2 before we played.
There's 140 and
Not
left
even
at
2 hours.
3:15.
Not even 2 hours?
We did 150%.
You used the same battery.
And they never...
5.5 hours.
We start out with $2,000.
Not all playing time. That's all.
No, I realize that.
We started with $2,000, bought back the marker, and end up with 3,000. And oh wait, I won 15 of this at the crap table on the way out. So that goes over here in the pocket. And other than that, we did 3,042, $5 change, $47. Oh yeah, that's right. Then
Don't forget...
least we finally found the tux pants to fit.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't believe that chicken with a tuck shot. But I had something out for you. I'm in there saying, yeah, well, this is my wedding, but I want these pants cut a little different for the best man. She goes, well, that's no problem. And I put on. She said, you try them on first. I said, yeah, he's about my size, a little smaller. And I put them on, and they fit like a glove. I said, nah, these won't do. I want them a lot baggier. He goes, well, how big is he? Well, the same height as I am, about 130 pounds. She goes, well, he'll look terrible in those. I go, I don't care what he looks like. I can stay at 3/4 power. Yeah, when it was on the top of the leg, I had to use full power.
If you guys are wondering about the bandages, that's from our practice sessions.
Yes, in our earlier tape. Good old action tape. Yeah. It's the action tape. It's guaranteed never to come off, even after 4 years. So if you ever miss the shuffle and you come in the middle, just give me the plays and don't count the cards.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that would do that. This thing's more sophisticated than I thought.
Oh, lovely stuff. First place, set up for 6 decks and double down after splits.